Financial leadership is changing. CFOs no longer record history. They make history. This podcast will help you become a better leader, strategic thinker, and digital visionary. Welcome to Secrets of Rockstar CFOs, the ultimate podcast for chief financial officers. Follow along as Jack McCullough engages in exciting chats with accomplished CFOs, learning how they overcame obstacles and positioned their companies for the future. Here's your host, Jack McCullough.
Welcome back to another great episode. I've been really looking forward to this guest, so we're going to just jump right into it. I'm really happy to welcome Anita Koimur, who is the COO and founder of LiveFlow. LiveFlow is a venture-backed startup that's bringing automation and real-time connectivity to the world of financial reporting. Its platform is designed to streamline one of the most time-consuming parts of financial operations, the dreaded month-end close. It's a tool that's gaining traction among CFOs who want to modernize how their teams work. Anita, welcome to the Secrets of Rockstar CFOs.
Hi, Jack. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
No, glad to do it. And you're only the third non-CFO we've had as a guest. And we met in an event, and I was just so impressed with the story and what you're accomplishing that I said, I think our members need to learn about this. But how is my description of LiveFlow? I tend to oversimplify.
You're hired. It's brilliant. It's really awesome. Well, first of all, I'm very honored to be here as a non-CFO guest. I think you're building a phenomenal show, and I was really, really happy to hear you talk a couple of months back at, I think it was the CFO Bruce event here in New York, which was awesome, where you spoke and talked about the role of the CFO and how it's changed, and I really felt very moved and inspired. So thank you so much for having me here, and I hope I can be an interesting guest for your listeners.
I'm certain you will be, and you were kind to say that I got LiveFlow well, but do you want to fill in the blanks a little bit about more of what the company does that I might have overlooked?
Yeah, to put it simply, LiveFlow helps companies manage their finances with ease. We specialize in multi-entity financial consolidation, and like you said, automating manual financial reporting, mainly month-end close. To be a little bit more technical, we plug into companies' accounts and tech stack, such as QuickBooks Online or Xero, and then automatically pull this data into custom financial models in Excel or Google Sheets, or our own proprietary dashboards. And then the whole point of this procedure is to have financial insights in real time so that finance leaders can make decisions faster without having the dreadful month-end close where you get your results on 15th of the next month.
Oh, that's fantastic. I can see why you've achieved a very high level of success in just a few years. But let's return to that. But before we begin, I want to talk a little about your own background. Where'd you grow up?
I mixed back, and people always say, like, what's going on with your accent? And it's really hard to pinpoint. Maybe those listeners who are familiar can say it, but yeah, I'm mixed. I was born in Sweden, and my mom then came to Russia, where I was brought up in a small town. Then eventually, when I turned 18, right on my birthday, I went to Moscow. That's where I studied, and later on moved to London, UK, and then finally moved to the US. That's kind of a quick background story of myself.
No, that's great. And, I'm curious, you have a really interesting global vision, having lived in at least 3 countries. And and your accent is a little bit complex, so I did have trouble placing it when we first met. But how does that background shape your perspective on business? Because things are more global than ever, and only more so.
Yeah, sure. Well, growing up, I saw my mom being extremely passionate about what she was doing, and she's running a small business still. I think over the last 20 years. And I saw her being busy all the time. And these conversations at home about how to make things work and then your strategy, what she would come up with, really shaped my mind about wanting to own something and drive it end to end and being really responsible for everything you do. That was something very inspirational and shaped my vision, first of all. So that was the first thing that guided me. The next thing that happened to me, I think the next big footprint is the first trip abroad, where I went to Europe and had the chance to practice my English, which was absolutely horrible at that time, but still a chance to communicate with someone abroad trying to express myself was very inspirational, and seeing the world actually was something that shaped me a lot. So at all times then I tried to earn my first money and actually travel a lot so that I can see a little bit more of the world. The next, I think, iteration happened at the university. So I went to the most international university of Russia, which is called People's Friendship University of Russia. I think I met people from maybe over 50 countries or so. I tried to enrich my experience as much as possible and again, travel and learn more about other cultures and people. Eventually, during that time, I started to work, and the company I worked for put me in charge of business development and building a brand new vertical, which was a big honor at that time. I was very young and probably knew nothing, but at least I tried. And they sent me to various locations, starting from London to then New York and San Francisco. And that exposure, and again, the ability to express myself and be understood and do business together really, really pulled me out to build an international career. So the next step was my relocation to London, where I worked for one of the greatest companies, in my opinion, Revolut, which is a massive fintech right now. At the time I started. So I was really lucky to be part of the stage when it was shaped and molded. And then I got this exposure that I wanted to all of the entrepreneurs out there, to all of the people within the company who had the chance to bring their ideas to life. And luckily was one of those where I was able to drive one of the products across multiple markets in Europe. And ended up meeting my co-founder, with whom we eventually started LiveFlow, the company I run right now. And because the company got the traction here in the US, because we have the Y Combinator, that eventually brought me across the pond to New York.
Oh, what a fantastic story. When you look back at the places you've worked, where do you think, or what experience were the greatest learning opportunities for you, be it a company or maybe a particular project you worked on, or maybe even an individual you worked for?
Yeah, I think probably Revolut had the biggest impact on me. First of all, because of the level of ambition that I had never seen before. I think at that time, just to give a little bit more context before I break it down, Revolut is now a global bank that has multiple products in it. And I think they're heads and shoulders above that many other traditional banks. The reason it works like this is because the founder of Revolut saw the problem, first of all, across Europe on currency exchange, where when you travel and change borders across the countries in Europe, you would pay quite a hefty fee on currency exchange rates. And he wanted to change that so that when you travel across the borders, you pay like at home without bothering at all. That worked. And that was the first core value proposition. And then on top of that, we started to build more products that would turn it into your everyday card instead of in the UK, Barclays, Santander, NatWest, and other banks. And it was an uphill battle, but the passion and the willingness to just absolutely reshape the banking industry was something that really impressed me and changed me as a person. And this mindset that everything is possible, that is absolutely inevitable to acquire at Revolut, I think, was absolutely brilliant for me. And yeah, that's why I think it actually had the biggest impact.
That's interesting.
Out of all of the workplaces.
Yeah, no, that's great. And when you look back, now you're one of the leaders of your current company. As a founder, it's inevitable, and the COO. But what are some of the leadership lessons you took from your prior experiences that, made you confident that you could launch the new business?
Good question. Let me think for a second. I think the first and most important skill that is paramount when you start a company or when you drive something from scratch is problem solving. And I think I had it in me, but I had all the chances to tap into it during my time at Revolut. I really loved the freedom that I experienced, so that I decided to co-found the company, because it was like so exciting to be the one on the ground and solve real world problems and see the impact that you can drive. So I think this is the first and foremost thing to think about when starting a company overall. It's all about solving problems from day one till probably forever. It's a different scale for sure, but it's all about being passionate and energized by solving someone else's problem and making them successful with your product. So I think this is the first thing. The second thing that becomes very, very obvious as soon as you step outside of problem solving day in and day out is just finding the people who are equally passionate and who would drive the company to the next milestone and row in the same direction actually will help to define the direction. I think it's impossible to build a successful company without the greatest people you are excited about on your day-to-day basis.
Fascinating. So I want to chat specifically about LiveFlow for a little bit, if I may. And, obviously going for a company, leaving a company that you obviously loved, to do your own thing, risky on every level, financially, emotionally, and whatnot. But what was the market opportunity that you saw that, CFOs need this, that really motivated you to take the leap and found LiveFlow?
Yeah, sure. I think experiencing the problem myself, seeing how difficult it is to juggle a myriad of spreadsheets and having the numbers out of date was something that really moved me. And again, the story that I've been hearing a lot that is very repetitive is that sometimes if you don't keep your finances in order, you can go out of business very soon. Once I had the story when we were just starting out, and I think we started to gain this initial traction of being known as the platform that helps you to bring financial visibility. We got someone, I think, on the 30th of December, like the very end of the year. And the guy booked a demo. We hop on a call, and he tells me, look, I'm about to go out of business. He owns a blog somewhere in California. And he almost cries, saying that he was not looking into his finances and he had some kind of an external accountant who didn't help him to put it in order, so that when he now looked many months after into these finances, he was absolutely out of any cash. So he had to take a loan on very unfavorable terms. And he desperately sitting on the 30th of December was trying to find something that would solve it for him right here, right now. That was very touching. And that only made me closer to solving the problem. So to put it simple, just understanding the business owner, first of all, trying to help them to get this visibility at all times so that they can make better business decisions was the main driving factor for me to start this company.
No, that's fantastic. And I know you've raised an impressive amount of money to fund the company's growth. What are you allowed to share about, how much you've raised and who some of the investors you are and, how you selected them? Because I have a hunch you probably had your pick of investors to choose from.
So it started back in the UK. So to make it clear here, like I mentioned before, both my co-founder and I worked in London, UK, where we both met Traveled. And we were staying back in the day in London, but we got the initial traction in the US. So how that happened? We came up with this idea of LiveFlow, and we thought that it would be a fantastic idea to learn from the best of the world. In our opinion, this is Y Combinator, which is an accelerator here in the US that helps early stage companies that are just kicking things off to understand what it means to build a massive company like Airbnb, Stripe, Gusto, Brex, and others. So I think the first thing that we had in mind is that, yes, we were traveling. That was amazing. But we also want to understand a bigger picture once you break through and have a massive company. What are the steps? Of course, there's no playbook that fits all, but we wanted to get this exposure to the top entrepreneurs. And we were very lucky to be accepted to the program. So we started the program back in January 2021, and we're there for 3 months. So we got the initial investment from Y Combinator, then we had a seed round right after. So essentially the way this works, you build for 3 months, you make progress, you talk to customers, you just need to build something that makes sense. Then you present it during the demo day, and then you get feedback on your product and hopefully the investment that you're looking for. That was year 2021 when I feel like money grew on trees. That was some kind of a craze. I think that was a fantastic time to raise overall. So we raised around that is decent, $3.5 million. We kept building, still in London. Then what we started to see as we gained more and more traction, the majority of our customers came from the US, probably because of the Y Combinator's name. So we found ourselves sitting on the plane, flying all over the States to meet the customers in person, build something that mattered to them. And then we realized that we spend more time in the US than in London. And we made the decision to relocate in 2022. We started an office here in New York and started to hire the team on the ground as well. During that time, we raised yet another round because we grew so fast. We got Y Combinator's arm, which was called YC Continuity, that invested in startups further after the seed round. So we got funding from them. And then shortly after, I think we followed with Series A. That is our current stage. And in total, we raised $21 million. Series A was led by a New York-based fund, which is called Valent Ventures. Amazing people, amazing partners. They only invest in fintech, which is really, really helpful because they have a perspective on things. They were one of the early investors in Zero. So having them alongside was really, really helpful.
No, that's fantastic. So, and I noticed on your LinkedIn profile under education, you put Y Combinator. So
that's what I'm saying. I feel like those 3 months, they showed me so much and taught me so much about the world. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it's coming from you with all your global experiences, that's an amazing endorsement. So I want to talk, I know, from my own experience and, talking to my members, you've made some good headway so far, but how has the market responded to the technology? Are you seeing a lot of traction or adoption by companies?
Yeah. So it's very interesting how it started and where it's going. I think the first thing that we saw, the first wave, were the small, medium businesses I was talking about. Those businesses brought us over to accounting firms. And these are all sizes of accounting firms, from small, medium to major accounting firms here in the US. And these firms really helped us to shape the product that would make sense. So it started with a simple plug between QuickBooks Online and spreadsheets. So we would just swipe the data and make sure that whenever there is some kind of customization, whether it's a column inserted with contribution margin or a row that calculates gross profit margin, anything that matters, it would stay intact upon refresh, meaning that you can just have the most up-to-date picture of your business whenever you open the spreadsheet or whenever the spreadsheet is shared with anyone else. That was helpful. As we went, we got a lot of feedback that consolidation was a massive issue. On top of it, we, as you can hear, have an international business. So we have 2 entities ourselves. We have a US topco and a UK subsidiary, which means that we need to consolidate and exchange currencies, exactly the problem that we are very familiar with, and make sure that everything is up to date. And also investors can tap into financials whenever they want to without asking us questions. So they can drill down into details, understand what's going on, and so on and so forth. So we knew about the problem ourselves. We had a kind of half-baked solution via spreadsheets, but what we also saw that it wasn't enough. The next iteration of that path was to introduce a fully automated consolidation product that would pipe the data from multiple subsidiaries into a standardized chart of accounts, would do elimination, transaction level, account level, would do different percentage ownership, different dates for entities being acquired, and so on and so forth. There is a lot of detail out there that is really important. And we wanted to automate this end-to-end, knowing how painful that was. And that was the big aha moment for us and for our target market. And that's where we saw an influx of upper SMB, lower mid-market finances, where you have CFOs, controllers, head of finance, and other finance people who solve it day in, day out. We even heard that there is a role as a consolidation person, which is very interesting because the process is that manual, it requires a standalone hire. So we ended up pursuing this particular segment and building for that specifically. And that's where we had the huge unlock. And that's where our product is centered right now.
No, yeah, it is interesting. I discovered that early in my career. There are people, their only role in the company is to do all of the consolidations. It's like, these must be massively complex companies to need somebody like that. So cool. And forgive me for the question I'm about to ask Anita, but I'm legally required to ask you about AI to keep my license as a podcaster for CFOs. So
just like everyone nowadays.
Yeah, you have to ask it, right? But AI, you mentioned automation. I'm guessing it's a big part of your product architecture.
Yes, of course. I mean, you cannot ignore the wave that is happening right now, which I think is super exciting. To begin with, we do use AI in-house for pretty much every job in one way or another. It's very helpful. And I strongly recommend everyone who is listening to this podcast to check AI out. Not only the likes of ChatGPT or Perplexity, but maybe other AI tools for your role or industry specifically. for finance in this case. Why? Because it dramatically increases the speed of operations. It's not always accurate. That's one thing that you need to keep in mind. But if it, I guess, does 80-90% of the job and you need to have someone to check the results, I think this is pretty good in comparison to not having it in place at all. Now, speaking about LiveFlow, specifically where our customers see the benefit of AI, first is this consolidation product, which I mentioned, that does automating based on how the accounts are structured and based on the initial type of accounts that finance team set up. So that's one thing. Another thing is a brand new product that is coming up. It's called Finance IQ. To add more color to it, Finance IQ is a budgeting module that allows you to forecast as well and build your projections by department so that they can see what's going on in real time without waiting for the CFO to prepare those financials. Make sure that there is access control in place, which is really, really important. And also what we are building into it is an AI module that would recommend people which other, for example, subscriptions you could consider if something is going out of whack very quickly. So that's another area where we are implementing AI. There are many other things, many other products coming up, but I will keep a little secret here for now.
That's a perfectly reasonable thing. So that's great. So I want to get back. You mentioned, working at Revelot. If I'm saying that correctly, hopefully. And, so big company, rapid growth, a little north of 20,000 employees, according to LinkedIn. And then, going to a company where there's the two of you. And I'm just curious, what was that transition like, almost as much on a personal level as it is on a professional level? Because, it's got to be a little bit different, right?
Right, for sure. I think I joined at 300 people and left when we were 2,500. That was the stage. And that's all within 2 years. So that was quite some scale. First, it feels like, okay, wow, we have such a small team. So we also have a third co-founders and we started 3 of us. And one beautiful thing about being a very small team of 3 is to actually be the one in charge and not to be dependent on anyone. And I remember those days as very romantic days where whatever is needed, you just go at it, which is quite cool. But again, the thing that I mentioned before, it will scale and you need to hire phenomenal people to make sure this happens. So I think the jump from the big org that it turned into to 3 people was challenging to begin with, as in, now you're on your own and you need to execute and no one knows about your company. And you just need to knock so many doors to hear back. And it's not, of course, always positive. So you need to grind and really build a lot of stamina and keep going because you truly believe that this makes sense. But then it turns into a very different story where you have some traction. And like I mentioned before, you need to bring the best people who share your vision of how this company will grow and also will drive it to the next milestone. So it's a very different task altogether, but obviously is very exciting because we can scale the company so much more once we have the structure in place. But again, now we are maybe 50 people, incomparable to what Revolut was when I left, but feels like a big company compared to 3 people back in the day.
Oh yeah, everything feels different. So, I remember first small company I joined, I was employee number 50, and we probably peaked at around 300. And to me, 300 felt like a huge company, but when I talked to the founders, they thought 50 when I joined was a huge company. So your mindset's completely different. But, getting back to it, what were some of maybe the lessons you've learned, and maybe even if there were some big surprises about launching your own business?
Lessons I learned. Well, one thing that is very clear, I think that goes ahead of everything else, is putting the customer first and building to someone who really cares. I think at the very beginning, when you just try to shape and mold the product, there's not too much belief that this is going to work out. So you really need to partner with someone, we call them design partners, who believes that this is something that will change the way things are done and who commits and joins you on this journey. I'm talking about customers. So many times, I think what we did, we would ask, how painful is financial reporting for you, scale 1 to 10? And people would be like, But okay, probably we are not the right fit for you. We need to find someone who has like 9 or 10 out of 10 pain, and they're just screaming how inefficient it is and how much they hate the current process. And then, okay, great. So what about if we build this? And you just iterate and prototype with them. And ideally, you want to get to the point where they will tell you like, okay, this is a 10 out of 10 solution that makes total sense. Take all of my money, just build it. I think that is the main thing, just not to be dreamy in a way, thinking that, first of all, your solution would fit everyone. And I'm talking about this particular experience that I had. I guess many other companies can say something else, but from my experience, you need to build for must have and not nice to have, and to get to this level of clarity as soon as possible. Because when you just hear something like, oh yeah, it's a nice little product here. And when you talk money and say like, look, we actually would love to charge you. What do you think? And people hesitate. It means that you're building something not as helpful. So you really need to listen to those who have the real problem and can tell you that that is exactly what they need to get it solved. So finding passion of customers is definitely one thing that I think makes or breaks a company. It's my first thing. I cannot, ignore this fact is, again, hiring the best people you can. Maybe I can break it down a little bit more from the culture standpoint. So one of the things that we did super early on was to define our culture. Why is it important? Because a company goes through hard times and easy times. And once an easy walk, everyone joins you and it's so exciting and it's so awesome. But when you hit a roadblock and another one and another one, it's not for everyone. And for people to overcome this, they need to truly believe that this is something that makes sense, even we hit this very, very complex problems. So defining the culture and standing for culture fit is one of the most important things from my learning to an early stage company. And I don't think it's possible to nail it fully, but defining your culture, putting it out there, at least on the website, and then bringing it to the interviews and vocalizing and talk through every single value and figuring out what is important to another person, just being super transparent and open is paramount, because these people will eventually become leaders and they will hire the next generation of people. And supposedly this should be the reflection of the founding team and how the founding team sees the company's team.
No, that's, I think, a wise decision. So you mentioned the customers a couple of times, and a lot of the members of the CFO Leadership Council right now who are your customers or have the profiles of your customers right now, they're leading, digital transformations of their own inside their companies. And I'm wondering, what advice would you give a CFO and his or her team when it comes to evaluating and adopting financial technology, whether it's yours or just in general?
Yeah, so I think what I've heard many times, the decision-making process is slow. We need to go through procurement and so many things. And it will take us like several months. And I saw leaders who make decisions fast and they just try. So people who try and iterate, being very, very successful. And those who drag, I think probably as not successful, but it's hard for me to say something more precise than that. So the alternative that I see to extending the lifespan on QuickBooks, especially for multi-entity businesses, is to, of course, go to ERPs. And many people are scared of that. And of course, they say like, look, this will take another 12 months, 18 months. It's a long process. We're preparing, and they're kind of stuck in limbo, and they're not improving their current process, and they're not migrating just yet, or they're preparing for this migration, which is not the best outcome for the company and for themselves, because they cannot make decisions as fast and move the company as fast. So I think being decisive and setting up systems and processes, yes, of course, there might be this integration or migration coming up, but you still need to make decisions now, and you maybe have 1 year, 1.5 years before this happens. So maybe it makes sense to introduce something that gives you this light, so that throughout this time, you hopefully make a ton of progress before this big thing is introduced.
That makes sense. So I want to get back to you, busy entrepreneur, as all entrepreneurs are, fast-growing company. Kudos for you, but it can't be all work and no play. So I'm wondering, how you maintain that all-important healthy work-life balance.
I don't know what the work-life balance is to begin with. I think work is part of life, if I can put it this way, where I don't really separate it out. And if I do something, I have it running in the background anyways, because I'm thinking about problems to solve and the next big things we are going to ship. So I don't really separate it out, but yes, of course, I have something outside of work. So my hobby that I discovered here in New York is boxing. And I was before, I was a passionate runner. Suddenly, running stopped working for me, as in that was a place for me to just switch somehow and immerse myself. And I really like to be immersed. And as much as I love running, still, it's not the way for me to really think about something else. So boxing is the thing that I discovered here in New York. Apparently, it's very popular here. I tried it once and fell in love madly. So I ended up having it regular now every week, and I barely can survive without my workouts anymore.
That's good for you. And you and I have actually spoken about this in the past. But so remind me, when you're boxing, are you boxing just as the exercise form, or are you boxing
Just
against
the
other people?
exercise. No, I have a hard time sitting someone. I really feel bad about it. I cannot really hurt another person. So I prefer the back, or I prefer like a training session, especially with someone who's more experienced than I am. If I accidentally hit someone, I'm like, I'm so sorry. Are you fine? So it's not really the best tactic to stop and just keep asking about it. But yeah, right now it's just like to get all of the energy out on the back and just exhaust myself, because it's such an intense workout.
Yeah. And I mean, the boxing workout long has been considered one of the most effective ways to get and keep in shape. So good for you for embracing that. And I know you've lived multiple places. Do you have any fun vacations that you'd like to talk about? Exciting trips that you've got coming up or that you've already been on?
I think I keep referring to London. It's one of the most favorite places. I just came from another trip. Was there for an event with our investor. Just fascinates me, to be honest. Mainly because of the beauty of the city and the culture. So I keep returning to London quite often, because we have the team in an office there.
Yeah, for my money, London's probably the greatest city in the world. Not that I've been to every city, but it's the best one I've been to. Let me put it that way safely.
Yeah.
You've been to London. You know where the furthest I've gone in the last 2 years is? New Hampshire. Okay, so I'm
No,
jealous.
had no idea.
You're going to London. I'm going to New Hampshire. So, and for those who don't know, I live in Massachusetts, so not exactly far. So cool. But anyway, this has been great. I know you've got a lot going on, so I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me and to our listeners. And I often close this by asking advice for the next generation of CFOs. But, given that you're not a CFO, I wanted to put a twist on it, because more and more CFOs and my listeners generally are considering an entrepreneurial track. So what's the advice you would give somebody who's thinking about, hey, maybe I have an idea for a business. I'd like to start it. What advice can you share based upon your experiences and your successes?
Get it done. That's simple. Just talk to the potential customers. Go ask them. Back to my initial question. We have this problem. How important is it for you to get it solved? 1 to 10. Put a score on it. It's really important. And if I solve it this way, and ideally there should be some kind of a prototype which can be built with products like Lovable, right? You can put things together real quick to see the willingness to pay for it. And if people tell you that it's a 9 or 10 out of 10 problem, and your prototype is a 9 or 10 out of 10 solution for them, phenomenal, just go build it. I think these days it's incredibly easy to, first of all, connect with someone. It's like the networks are incredible. It's easy to get feedback, which is the core thing when you start a company. And then second, to prototype very fast and get feedback from those people. I think it's much easier than it used to be, and probably will only become easier.
Thank you for listening to this episode. To continue your exploration of this role that focuses on strategy, leadership, finance, and technology, listen to more episodes of the show at rockstarcfos.com. Join this revolution, episode by episode. Push yourself to achieve great things and unlock the best opportunities available to you. CFOs are creating a legacy. and it's time for you to leave your own unique imprint on the world today. That's all for now. See you on the next one.